Alright, so the UPS guy just showed up, dropped off these goodies. Super excited, did a lot of research into these and decided that not only myself but Casey also going to be running the same coilover setup. Got them from BC Racing, super quick shipping, super easy. We got custom spring rates because we're going to be removing the front sway bars, because once you get angle going, you're going to run into clearance issues there. So I'm going to get busted into these and take a look and see the beauty that's underneath the box. Get some stickers, always nice. Ooh, baby. Really impressed with these things right out of the box. They have everything that you could need. It's got the different adjustments all the way up to top and bottom. This is the first time that I've ever had to deal with coilovers, so it's going to be a little bit of a new world, but we're sitting currently on forward lowering springs only, which are good, but they don't really get the job done when it comes to the track. Cue the footage. But I think the old girl is going to do just fine now that she's got a nice sweet set of these BC Racing custom coilovers. Here we are again. Got a nice beautiful day outside. Figured I'd take my lunch break today from work and do a little bit of work on the drift stang. I'm going to try and get the rear suspension at least dropped. Hopefully I'll be able to get that done right now. May end up having to push that a little bit into after work, but it's a nice day. I've got nothing to do, so might as well give it a shot and get some of these parts on. So let's see how easy this install goes, and hopefully the coilovers will not show any, not show their ugly head and not show any unforeseen problems, because as we all know, you're only one broken bolt away from a 30-minute job being now a 3-hour job. So let's get this in. We'll get this lifted up in the air and hopefully get some of these bolts broken loose and possibly get it on. So I've got one bolt here, or one nut here. I'm assuming the other one is up in the access through the trunk for the strut. So that looks fairly simple to come off. What are we looking at next here? I'm gonna have to take off my, looks like my rear lower control arm. So I need to take off this rear control arm bolt. So here's a little tip that I learned growing up. Paper plates can be used for many, many things. So what I've done here is I've taken off my lower strut bolt, and to make sure that I don't lose that, I go ahead and just write on a paper plate, lower strut bolt, push the bolts through. Got the nuts on the back side there. That's a nice easy way to remember where your bolts are going, because normally I would just lay them somewhere down around in here. They would accumulate in a pile and it's a guessing game. So guessing game no more. Shout out to my dad for teaching me that little tidbit, and it's a nice little top tip. Lower shock mount bolt out. Now I need to move on to this bolt right here. But if you look, This is for your lower control arm here. Your lower control arm has a stress on it from this spring. So what I want to do is I want to support this on the lower control arm with my jack. And then what I'll do is I will lower this once I get that bolt out. So it'll be nice and safe, because if you try to yank that bolt out or knock that out while that spring is still in there, it's compressed, it's going to cause springs to go flying everywhere, and you do not want that. It looks it's not going to be fun. So going to get the jack underneath here, support that, and see where we end up. Interesting. So it appears that the back bolt here is actually seized into that mount. So I'm going to try taking this nut the rest of the way off.
Are you sure about that?
Hopefully I've got that supported enough and I can knock that out.
Can we lower the volume, please?
Another reason it's a good idea to always check YouTube and the resources you have available is so you don't spend 15 minutes doing something very, very dumb like I was just doing. I thought that I had a very stubborn, rusty bolt, or not rather, that was not moving on my upper control arm. So I hit it with PB Blaster, did everything, I couldn't get this thing to budge. Well, turns out what it actually is just a piece that this bolt goes in and out of. So I sat here for about 10 minutes or so, 10-15, trying to unscrew this, which is welded on, but learn from me, learn from my mistakes. Check YouTube, use all resources you have possible. I've got access to all data. I didn't bother looking at it because, let's be honest, I'm a man, I don't follow directions. So I just like to hop in, see what I'm working with, but you can save yourself a little time, a little bit of headache just by using your head. I should have kept recording while I had you on the line, but anyway, we're recording. So lower control arm bolt is going back in after your suggestion, and then I'm just going to move my stands and the whole thing. I'm like, I know I've done this before, but that's the bad thing about owning a car for 7 years, is you do a job on it 5 years ago. It's like, I've done this before, so I know I can do it. I just am going to make stupid mistakes along the way watching YouTube videos.
You do.
All right, man.
All right, man.
I appreciate it, and I'll shoot you a pic if I can get both of these in.
Sweet.
All right, later.
Later.
Actually, I'm kind of glad you're here, because if something were to go wrong, and like badly wrong, it's going to in the next 30 seconds.
Is Eddie not here?
Oh. As you can see, we've now got the old springs out. Some Ford Racing lowering springs. Getting ready to put those back in. These old crusty 110,000 mile shocks seen better days. Now being replaced with these new adjustable ones. So now that we've got everything disassembled, it's time to do it all in reverse. So update. It's a little late, but look at those babies. Shoo! side. We got the spring here with the adjuster, and paired with that beautiful new shock. Both sides in, everything seems to be tightened down. Need to throw back in the sway bar, tighten that up, and then I guess throw the wheels on it, lower it down, see how she's sitting. I know that it's going to require a lot of fiddling with. There's a lot of adjustments on these, and I'm new to the game, so I don't know how to set these up right out of the box. So I'll do a little tweaking with that, but make sure that I get it right where I want it, and then I'll move up to the front. Actually, now that I think about it, they said to do it side by side, so scratch that. Once I get this back together, make sure everything's tightened down, put the wheels back on it, drop it down, let it sit, move to the front, and then I'm going to start in on those and see how much of a headache those are going to be. I don't think it would be too bad. It's only a few bolts, but as I thought with the X-Pipe, that wasn't going to be too bad, and that proved to be different. So really happy with the way this came out. If I would have known what I was doing from the get-go, it would have been pretty quick, relatively easy, but I don't know. You lose your mind sometimes while you're working on a project, especially by yourself. So I had to call Casey at one point. He set me straight, gave me some good advice, and so I was able to get the rest of this done, everything in, cinched down. So let's drop this down and see how she sits. All right, so back at it. Finished up late last night, got the rear coilovers on, and I gotta admit, this thing, it's sitting so sexy. Let's take a look. Ooh, ooh, baby. Let's dance though. I mean, she's just got, you know, maybe 2 fingers. Let me get another view without all that backlight. Ooh, I mean, I could pretty much stick my entire fist in the wheel gap that it had beforehand, and I should have thought and got a video or a picture of me doing that before, but man, that thing, it is sitting low. There's no way I'm gonna get this out of my driveway without making some adjustments. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try and get the front on now. Again, working on my lunch break at work, one of the perks of working from home. So I'm gonna try and get at least one side pulled. If I can get it all the way off and one side fully installed, that'd be great, but maybe a little ambitious for just an hour. So gonna go ahead, start on this driver's side. We'll get this put in, get all the old stuff pulled out, again do vice versa on the other side, and then we'll start with the adjustments, just fine tuning, getting it to the correct ride height, so I can actually make it out of my driveway without losing a bumper or losing my exhaust that I just worked on putting back together. So we'll get to work on this, and we'll see how much we can get done in the next hour. Got this supported back here. Hopefully that's all right. And just figured I might as well, while I got it off, point out the fact that these are not your standard crappy Mustang GT brakes. These are the upgraded crappy Cobra brakes. Really nice design though. It's a little bit bigger pistons, a little bit bigger caliper obviously. The rotor went from an 11 to a 13-inch rotor, so a lot more stopping power there. Really worked out nicely for autocross, but I think that it's going to do even better for drifting. So speaking of drifting, as I drift the camera off, as you can see though, I've already got some issues with the clearance. So this right here I'm rubbing on with my tires because I run a little bit bigger tires than what came from the factory. They came from the factory with 235s or 245s, and these ones I'm running right now are actually 275s all the way around. So it's got a nice bit of meat on it, but it obviously has caused some issues here. So I'm assuming that being even lower on coils, on coilovers, is not going to help that clearance issue at all. But we'll have some adjustment that we can play with, and if I need to take something to this, since we no longer really, that's that's no longer going to be a necessary part because that spring is going to be relocated to coilover up here on the shock. And then also while I'm down here, I'm going to pull these boots from my inner tie rod end. I'm going to pull the limiter, give you a little bit of extra angle coming off the car, which I'll probably actually now, I need to measure how much angle we've got. But I guess we can do that with Casey's car, so no big deal. That'll be a easy setup. So yeah, let's go ahead and start getting some of this stuff off there. Also, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my tie rod end, and there's a little bit that I can shave off actually, and that piece that I shave off is actually connected down into here, but there's just an extra little spacer before the threads start, so I'll be able to pull that in and actually be able to give myself just a little bit more angle. So trying to unlock any little secret angle mods that we can. Also will probably help because I think the front sway bar is going to be removed, so we compensated for that by ordering some stiffer springs per all the research that we've done, but I'm sure it's going to ride like junk now on the street, but it should be good for the track. And I've got the inner tie rod out. Well, I've got the whole tie rod, I guess. Got the tie rod out. And as you can see, right in here, we've got just a little bit of a lip before the threads actually start. If you can hack that, I'm not exactly sure how I want to do that yet, whether I want to use a grinding tool or if I want to use my Sawzall. But basically, if you hack that, it shortens it up just a little bit, snugs it up to the rack just a little bit tighter, and you're able to get just a little bit more angle out of your factory setup. So nice little tip that we found out that you can do on these. Apparently it's pretty common on most cars. Also, you saw I pulled the rack limiter as well. Just a little piece of plastic. Most of the time you can just pop them out, but since I had this coming out anyway, I just waited and slid it out completely. So let's get to hacking on this, and hopefully we don't screw it up too bad and have to go buy another one, but I think we'll be all right. Another day, another lunch break, same dirty hoodie. Hopefully I'm going to be able to get the coilover installed back in here on the driver's side. As you can see, got it all torn down, strut, spring, everything out. Tie rod end has been ground down and is reinstalled. So all I need to do is I've got 3 bolts up here that run through on the top of the, where's my, there. We got 3 bolts on top of this, 3 bolts on top of there. So just gonna slide this piece in, snug it down, connect the bottom piece to the knuckle here, and should be able to set the side back down and see what kind of clearance issues I got. So let's get this installed. Sitting pretty now. So something I didn't account for is now I've got a little bit of toe out And what I mean by that is if you look at the wheel, it's not exactly sitting flush, it's kind of sitting like that, and they call that toe out. So I've got to get a bump steer kit to help adjust for that, and it'll give some adjustability on the end of my tie rod end, so I'll be able to pull that in and out as I raise and lower the vehicle. But as far as first impressions on how it's sitting, you can't beat that. It's gorgeous. Just finally tucking the wheels just a little bit. You can get 3, almost 4 of my big ass fingers in there. But if you go around to this other side, I mean, we're down to 2, maybe 2.5 if I really wanted to shove my finger in there. But looking good. Got everything up here nice and snug down. I'm in love. Got the coilovers installed. I ran into a few little snafus, mostly trying to get the rear wheel spacer off. That was a real bitch. That was not really any fun. But after I got that off, got it moved up front, solved some clearance issues up here that we were running into earlier. Also, taking it off the back now has helped with the amount that I think it's going to actually scrub. I may not even have to roll the fenders now. So raised it up just a little bit. It's finally able to get in and out of my garage, I hope. We'll see here in just a second if it does. Gonna head to the car wash, grab some beauty shots of it, and we'll see how it looks all cleaned up. First impressions of the coilovers, actually surprisingly not that bad. I've only been in a couple cars that have actually been riding on coilovers, so I don't really have a crazy good reference point, but I figured for adding the stiffer front springs up front, since we're getting rid of the sway bars when we get a little bit more angle going on, I thought it was really going to bounce around. And I mean, it rides like a covered wagon does, but it's a surprisingly forgiving covered wagon. So like the Mercedes-Benz or the Bentley of the covered wagons. So so far, no weird noises, no pops, no doing nothing making it sound weird or feel funny. So I'm pretty happy, and so far we'll see. Make sure that I don't lose a wheel here, but I'll get back with you.